and we'll let the room start to populate here. Just give it a couple seconds. Yep, there we go. It's starting to fill up with coaches joining us here. So welcome everyone to our Monday sessions of Virtual Coaches Clinic 2021. Looking forward to a big week of speakers. I hope everyone's checking their schedules because we're adding new coaches daily. In fact, we just added Kevin Eastman for next week to speak. So very excited to have Coach Eastman back with us. But starting today, going to get into some ball screen actions and concepts with Coach Dave Paulson, former head coach at George Mason, along with Bucknell and Williams College. We were talking offline before we started, and I was mentioning how one of his assistant coaches had kind of shared with me some of the concepts when he was at Bucknell, and just really intrigued and really enjoyed the content that I've seen from Coach. So we're excited, and I'm excited to actually hear him in person here. So again, we want to make this a interactive event. So please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A box. We'll make sure to cover it. And hopefully you're going to walk away with some things that you'll be able to take and apply to your program. So Coach Paulson, thank you so much for being a part of this today. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Excited to be sharing some things, and you can see my screen now, right? Right.
Yep, Coach, we can see it.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm still mastering this technology. So what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about some of the ways that our ball screen offense has evolved over the years, and it's obviously evolves based on trends in the game, based on personnel that we have here wherever I'm coaching, and try to always tweak it and take advantage of the newest concepts of the game, and steal from NBA and from other college teams and things like that. But what I thought I'd do first is just kind of, to me, it's really important to talk about what's the philosophy behind what we're trying to do offensively. And so we talk about creating an advantage, reading an advantage, and then executing the advantage. And so to get an advantage where we have the defense scrambling, or they're in rotations, or two people have to cover one, and now we're in an advantage situation, and then that's how the best way to get good shots and to score is out of advantage situations. So, well, how do you get advantage situations? Well, one is transition, and beating the team down the floor and putting pressure on the rim, putting pressure outside the three-point arc, and obviously that's really, really important. Penetration, dribble drive penetration, post-ups with good post players. And those are things that hopefully any good offensive attack will incorporate. Certainly there's secondary break actions, entries, set plays, isolations, plays after timeouts, baseline out of bounds, sideline out of bounds, where the coach can kind of script and choreograph, okay, here's what we're going to try to do to create an advantage. But what I want to talk about today is what I call our endings, or the play after the play. And it's when I spend a lot of time thinking about how are we going to play? What is our motion offense? Back in the day, talk about motion offense. And it's much more ball screen oriented, but I think it's really fun to think about how you play after the play breaks down. I think learning how to play, it's the best way to play, but I also think it's the hardest to teach, because you're trying to teach players how to read and react and understand the game. But I think when you do that, when you're able to really teach how to play, how to read the defense, then I think that's the best way to play. The value of having a motion offense or a read and react type offense is that there's continuity for your players over time, that there's carryover for when they're playing pickup basketball in the spring, in the fall, in the summer. They're playing in pickup the way that they're going to play for you during the season. It also enables the older players to teach the younger players and take ownership of it. So I really like, and it's evolved for me. When I first did some videos on motion offense, it was kind of off ball screening action, but the game has changed. The trend of the game has changed, but I think the philosophy behind it of creating advantage is still the same. We're going to really dive into our ball screen offense and some of the new things we did this year. But I think it's important in whatever you're doing offensively is to teaching your players how to read the advantage. And so we talk a lot about the penetration reads for our perimeter players. And so we're going to show some film here in a little bit, but for our perimeter players who are at a wing position or at what I call the slot position, which is basically the lane line extended outside the three-point line or the top of the key. So anywhere from free throw line extended to the top of the key, there's different penetrations reads that we teach when your teammate is dribble penetrating. And so we talk about on dribble penetration towards you, looping behind the penetration. We talk about a quick step to present for a shot. We call it backdoor cut, a jersey cut. And so depending on where your defender's playing, a backdoor cut off a dribble penetration. We love on baseline penetration opposite. So if I'm on the left wing as a perimeter player and my teammate is on the right wing and drives to the baseline, we love to do what we call the dive, the 45 angle to the rim. And then by the same token, if I was up at the slot on the right side and my teammate drove to the baseline on the right, I would foul behind. And we like to call that a crackback. And some of these concepts will be demonstrated on video. If we're at the baseline, so lower on the baseline, then we work on penetration that's coming towards me from the middle. So for example, if I'm on the left baseline outside the three-point arc, and there's dribble penetration from the right wing to the middle, we talk about the step, and really important. I saw a great little video clip from Fran Fraschilla just the other day of compilation of a lot of it was from Baylor actually, but going from wide to narrow on the catch, on the kick to the baseline corner three, because this is new, at least in the college game, as a three-point line has been extended. A lot of kids are still kind of taking their foot back and stepping out of bounds. So working on the step, going wide to narrow to shoot, working on the loop, and also again, working on the backdoor cut, or what we call a jersey, on penetration towards the middle when you're in that opposite corner. And then we'll work on penetration again, if I was in that left baseline corner, on the drive to the right baseline, presenting for what we call the fade pass. We also drill our penetration reads for our forwards. And again, we're going to show some video where we've become much more of a 5-out offensive approach with our ball screen motion. And so the forwards, based on their skill level, would have the same reads from the wing and the slot and the top and the baseline as the guards. They would also have, and we'll show this on film, the ability to what we call punch, which would, again, if I was a front court player and I was on the baseline on the left side of the basket and there's dribble penetration coming towards the middle, I could duck in. We call it a punch for a post feed. We could be down in what we call the lunge spot or the dunker spot for a lunge move with some rhythm. We will, on that dribble penetration to the middle, allow that player who's in the dunker spot to euro or backpedal out to three for shot. We will allow him to run under the basket, so go from left underneath the basket on the left side to underneath on the right side. And then on penetration towards the baseline, a lot of times we'll have that player step up to right above the restricted arc with the head kind of right on the center of the rim. So again, those are some of the things we do on penetration reads, but I think it's really, really important in your breakdown work and your skill work that you're always working on what are my reads based on the penetration of my teammate. We all think it's also really, really important for us to work on what are the post-up reads when we throw the ball in the post for the other 4 perimeter players. And including in that is different ways that teams can try to double the post. This year, especially, a number of teams in the A-10, when I was coaching at George Mason, like to send the double team from the baseline. So the post defender would try to sit on the middle shoulder, and then on any spin to the baseline, they would run a guy from underneath the hoop to double, kind of a influence from the NBA. Certainly other teams have doubled from the top, from the middle, from the passer, big to big doubles. But then what are your options? And again, I think we've done different things in different years. We call a Stockton when the post feeder screens with the next guy on the perimeter and reads on that. We work on the post feeder might dive and the next player might replace and spot up. We call a speed cut or the baseline cut on the post feed. We call Denver action if we post feed and we spot, and the next two guys in the perimeter work on a down screen. And then we call Stevie action any kind of stagger. And so it might be a post feed and the post feeder and the next guy in the perimeter goes stagger away. But there's just different options. Oftentimes we will have the other forward always dive to the basket. So he's available as a passing option and also as an offensive rebounding option. And then the other thing that we think is really, really important is you have to practice your ball screen reads against every conceivable type of ball screen defensive action. We've named all of the ball screen reads that we practice against. So black is a hard hedge, red is a trap, blue is kind of a stretch hedge where instead of forcing the ball to the half court, you force it to the other sideline. We call it cowboy. Some people call it drop coverage, where the defender on the screener is kind of in the paint trying to corral the defense. We call a green a switch. A lot of teams have gone to downing or icing ball screens. And then certainly people who just try to run under the ball screen. So I think whatever it is you're doing, I think it's important that you drill your different reads in your positional breakdown, in your 5-on-0, in your 3-on-3, 4-on-4, and then obviously when you're going live. So we want to create an advantage, we want to read an advantage, and then we got to learn how to execute the advantage. And I think the first thing, and probably the biggest, most challenging thing to teach everywhere I've been, is to get every player to catch every pass shot ready. Butt down, hands and feet ready to shoot. If you're not a threat, it's hard to create that advantage. It's hard to perpetuate that advantage. And even if you're not a good shooter, catching a shot ready, eyeing the rim, shot faking, it's shocking how many players will close out and run at a non-shooter when he or she eyes the rim and shot fakes. So we're working on catching ready to shoot and hopefully obviously being able to shoot. And then we work on driving the closeout. And I just put in here some of the finish moves that have always been a part of my perimeter, and now really not just perimeter, but everyone's finishing series as we've gone to 5 out so much more in positionless basketball. So again, just trying to touch on some of the finish moves that we work on in a fundamental breakdown. A quick finish, maybe I'm driving to the right and a quick finish before the defender can go block it, an inside hand finish, a wrong foot finish, just trying to outsmart the defender, if you will, to try to get the shot off before the shot blocker or your own defender can attack it. We work on a body ball finish where we jump stop, shield the ball with our body, and then extend behind us. We work on what we call a slice finish, where we'll pick the ball up and slice across a defender. We work on a glide finish. We work on pivot finishes. Again, probably the best example of people who use the pivot finish is Villanova, where you get in the paint, you jump stop, and you pivot maybe for a turnaround jumper and up and under. And then we certainly work on our floater. And then I think the next level is to work on making the proper pass play. So if I get in off penetration and now two are covering me to make the proper pass play, whether it's a kick ahead, whether it's a throwback, whether it's hitting the big diving, and just creating a one more culture. And that I think is really, really important, being willing to share the ball and make the one more pass. And then the last thing that we really try to teach, and I think this is relevant, whether the X's and O's of what we do here in our ball screen motion, the person watching this, they may not incorporate any of it, but hopefully this is just some food for thought for what has to be incorporated as you're building your offense. And so after penetration, whether it be post up or dribble drive or cuts, respacing and continue your advantage. And we talk about getting to the next best action, the NBA. If we don't have something, how do we keep trying to create another action so we can get to advantage? And the last thing I want to share are two more things, just from a philosophy standpoint. We have a list of offensive absolutes that we stress. Again, I think it's really important to teach to the big picture first, and then we can get into the specificity as we move forward. So the first offensive absolute is take care of the ball. We have a game goal, of 12 turnovers or fewer. And, certainly other people use turnover rate. I like a game goal that we can reference at every media timeout, at halftime. Here's where we're at. Here's where we're tracking on our turnover goal. We have, the last couple of years, I've had just 3 game goals that we chart during the course of the game. One is defensive oriented, and that's for us to get what we call a lock, which is 3 consecutive stops to get that 6 times. One is an offensive oriented. We're going to turn the ball over 12 times or fewer. And then one is a rebounding goal to be +5 in the glass. And they're simplistic goals, but they're things that we can track very, very easily during the course of a game. We don't need to get into some of the more advanced analytics. And we found if we hit all 3 of those game goals, we won every single time we ever hit all 3 of those same game goals. So anyway, taking care of the ball would be one offensive absolute. Sharing the ball. Are we a team that assists? We have a high assist to turnover ratio. Are we making the one more pass? Taking great shots. That's an offensive absolute. And there's different ways of measuring, enforcing, reinforcing your shot selection, your field goal percentage, obviously, how many tough twos you're taking. There's a site, Hazelmetrics, which tracks the percentage of tough twos you take. I saw something interesting about Nate Oates putting lines on the court, the practice court, a 4-point shot, like a deep three, which is great for your spacing, a three, a shot deep in the paint is worth 2. And if you make a long 2, you only get 1 point for that when they scrimmage. And then I've done something frequently that we grade shot selection along the lines of things I heard that North Carolina did back when Dean Smith was a coach. The fourth offensive absolute is to rebound missed shots. I think in any offensive structure that anyone's creating, you have to emphasize getting on the offensive glass. And then it gets down to philosophy, how many people you send to the glass. But again, for us, we try to keep it simplistic. Are we +5 on the glass? Certainly, there's an offensive rebounding rate you can chart. I talked just the other day with Mark Adams, who's an ESPN commentator and has created a focus app where coaches could chart effort rate on offensive boards in real time on an app. But there's all kinds of ways that you can do that. And then the last offensive absolute that I think truthfully is as important as anything is next play. We can't have a guys play with emotional baggage because they're upset they missed a shot or they turned it over or they were open or they didn't get the ball. You have to be able to play with a free mind, a free head to be able to play effectively. And then I just wanted to talk about how you can teach the offense. And obviously it's 5-0. We will have required actions. We're going to do this on the second side or the third side. We will do 5-0, the positional breakdown groups, 3-man groups, 4-man groups, 5-man groups, working on reads, whether it be certain aspects of the offense or certain reads against different defensive techniques. One of the best things that we've done is what I call cutthroat, and that would be 5-on-5, and it's make it, take it. And we've done it half court, where if the defensive team, gets a stop, they outlet the ball to the coach. They all get outside the 3-point line, and now they go to offense, and the offense goes to defense. But we've also played full court cutthroat, which I really, really like. So if the offensive team scores, they outlet the ball, they stay in that same side of the court, continue to run half court offense with their endings. No entries, just learning how to read, react, and play. If the defensive team gets a stop and a rebound, they transition out. They play full court. If they score, they take it out on that end. If they don't score, the other team breaks back. And then I think one of the other things that's really, really helpful in teaching any offensive style play is having bonus points for the emphasis of the day. We always have a bonus point for an offensive rebound. I think that's one of the ways it's not so much what you teach is what you emphasize. So we have a bonus point. And then we also always have -2 for turnovers. So we would play cutthroat, I would say almost every day. And you score 2s and 3s, you get a bonus point for an offensive rebound and -2 for turnovers. And we'd play for 7 minutes or 6 minutes or 4 minutes, depending on where we were. And I found that, to be very, very effective. Can you see this now? The next slide here, flexible ball screen motion offense.
Yes, coach, sure can.
Okay, all right. So this is now getting into more of the nuts and bolts of what has evolved for me and will continue to evolve. And this year, at about slightly past the midpoint of the season, we went to a much more 5-out oriented ball screen offensive approach. So first question is, why the change? We were playing with two traditional forwards or front court players, and we were not getting the productivity that we wanted at that time. Our best player was playing the 3, and we wanted to try to find more opportunities to really put him as a decision maker, a facilitator, and give him the opportunity to play in space. So we moved this 3 to the 4. And one of the biggest things is we talk about forwards. We try not to talk about 3s and 4s, but we try to talk about our forwards as playmakers, because one of the biggest hurdles, at least in the college game, is nobody wants to be labeled a 4. But after we went to this change, we went 7-3. We won our last 5 games of the regular season. It was really effective for us. It got us to much more 5-out spacing. It allowed us to use a perimeter type player as a screener and also as a ghost man, where he's sprinting the screen and then vacating to the perimeter and slipping the screen early. What I liked is the flexibility when we did play with 2 bigs. This offense could flow to a 3-out, to a 4-out, or a 5-out, depending on who we had in the game. It allowed us to have flexibility attacking different ball screen, defensive coverage schemes. And it allowed us to incorporate, like all of us watching a million of these virtual clinics last year, watching NBA games when we were stuck in our homes, and I had way too many ideas, probably than I could use. But the ghost screens from the NBA, like the Miami Heat, really create a lot of indecision. And then what we call hands, which is hitting a forward and then playing off of him. So just quickly to define the ball screens that we're going to see, and then we're going to get to some video here. A side ball screen would be a ball screen occurring around the wing area, sending the ball handler towards the middle of the court with nobody in the strong side corner. And so there'd be 3 players spaced on the opposite side of the floor, maybe all 3 outside the arc, maybe 1 in the lunge move or punch or dunker spot. A spread ball screen would be a ball screen occurring at roughly the same spot on the floor, but with the strong side corner or the ball side corner occupied. Some people call that a shake screen. An alley ball screen is a screen that is occurring roughly around, we call the alleys, those lane lines extended. Ball screens occurring somewhere in that area, taking the ball handler out towards the sideline, not towards the middle. And then in terms of just to help our guys, and this is as much for our ball screen coverage as offensively, a loaded ball screen would be 2 perimeter players behind the ball screen. And a heavy ball screen would be a ball screen where you're going towards the heavy side of the floor with 3 players outside the arc. And so we want to have that terminology because we can kind of dictate the actions where we want the ball screens to occur based on personnel for us or based on defensive tendencies of the opponent. Terminology for the screener: after he sets the ball screen, he dives to the rim, he pops. We call an ice is a slip because you slip on the ice, but an ice, you're going to the basket. So you're running to that wing to set the screen, stopping short and icing to the basket. And we find the pass to the Iceman is great, but also we find that driving the ice is really, really good. A ghost would be sprinting to screen and slipping it, but slipping it to the perimeter. So you could ghost a screen. Maybe the screener's coming from the slot, passing to the wing, and ghost and get out to the strong side corner. Or maybe the screener is coming from below the ball handler, sprinting up to set like an alley screen and ghosting it towards the top of the key. The screener against a lot of hard hedging teams or trapping teams will screen and make a short roll and present for a pocket pass. We call a Ricky a rescreen, where you screen and then you come back and rescreen and send the ball handler the other direction. And we call a yoga, where you sprint out and then at the last second you reshape your screen. So what was going to be an alley screen might become a side ball screen, or vice versa. And then the other thing that I think, which will serve as the primary focus of our film, is what is the other forward doing? And I have gone in the past, I had some years where we did 4 out, 1 in, and we only had 1 screener. And against teams that we were physically better than, it was great. We had great spacing. We could get dislodged. We could get to advantage basketball, create an advantage, read an advantage, execute advantage. But against teams that we were not physically stronger than or more athletic, we had a hard time creating advantage with just 1 screener. And we found that 1 screener would then have to go to the other side of the court to screen, and because of that, he never really dove or presented under the basket. It was exhausting for him. And so I wanted to have a second screener, a designated screener, so that we could get to more actions within a possession. So if you envision a side ball screen occurring on one side of the floor, then the opposite forward, his or her options, one would be to lift. And then we see this, and there's probably been a lot of videos, kind of the European ball screen continuity that a lot of teams have had tremendous success with. And so we would lift that opposite forward, and then the options there is the kind of the ball side wing with that jersey, and then the next guard would fill, and you get to your side ball screen. Or on the 2-guard side, that slot guard could come over the top for a handoff, or what we call an oh yeah, where he hands it off, or then you could play down to the baseline for a side ball screen. We have what we called Zoom long before I heard of what we're presenting on, is Zoom technology. And that would be on the 2-guard side, the slot guard down screening, and then the forward dribble down to a dribble handoff of a down screen. And then we would call Florida action, where the baseline guard would come up and set a flare for the slot guard. So those are some of the options out of the lift aspect of it. What we've done a little differently this year is to diversify our offense, and also because we found that some teams in the continuity kind of lifted ball screen offense, if we had a non-shooting forward lifting, they could really kind of plug that gap, and it was harder for us to punish that defense. So instead of having the opposite forward come to the lane line extended 3, we had him come to the free throw line extended 3-point line, and we call that the alley position. And then on a kick pass now to a guard. So a guard would now be in that slot. And now that next forward could set an alley screen, bringing the ball handler to the outside. He could dive off that. He could short roll. He could pop. He could ghost it, or he could do what we call hands, where he just presents for a kind of almost a pinch post handoff, and then our reads off of hands, teaching the guard to stop behind and kind of play cat and mouse, teach the guard to hand off, to turn to score. A lot of times we'd hand off and then rescreen it, or a Ricky. If the handoff was blown up, we would hold the ball and then pivot, and he would come back for a yoga. We could run a two-man game, Tiger action, which we call, based on Princeton Tigers, kind of that, I don't know, I think they call it point over, and the run out with the guard and the baseline guy. And then also we could fake the handoff and get to what we call an oh no, which would lead to a quick drive or a face up for an ISO or a dribble to a post up. The other thing that the forward could do, which we didn't get to as much of, is they could Euro out to the corner three to create for pure 5-out spacing, or to flare for the wing to hands, in different reads like that. And then the last option for the opposite forward, and this could be for your forward who's not that mobile, not that skilled as a decision maker, or maybe you've got a great mismatch inside, or if teams have switched, we would get him down in that lunge spot, and he would punch and post up, and out of the punch, he could yell Barry, and the other forward could get to the high-low, or we could keep the offense going, swing the ball down the corner, sprint out to a low-angle ball screen, or go guard to guard, dribble handoff to a spread ball screen. And all of these things, or most of these, will be shown with film here in a minute. And then the last thing before we get to the film is, I think it's really, really important that your offense, and at least for me, mirrors the core values of our program. And so our 5 core values have been humility, passion, talk, toughness, and focus. And so humility is our first core value. Be a great teammate. It's not about you. You don't have to, just because you think of yourself less doesn't mean you think less of yourself. But just getting our guys to think less about themselves and more about the team. So we just really try to create a one more culture, pass one more time, one more screen, to take the shots we want and not take any of the, well, I haven't shot for 3 minutes, it's my turn shot. I think the way we play really helps perpetuate passion, because there's joy in the game, joy in being a great teammate, joy in playing the game the right way. And at times, offensively, when things have clicked, it's really fun to watch. It's really fun to play. It's aesthetically pleasing. To play the way that we're trying to play offensively requires talk. It requires a team to be connected, for everyone to call out every cut, every position. If I'm in the lift, if I'm in the alley, if I'm in the hands, what it is we're doing. And really, in this offense, your forwards make this go. One of the things that I will hopefully have an opportunity to continue to coach and experiment with is having a guard be, having my point guard or my 2 guard be the forward who's sprinting to screens, ghosting screens, playing out of hands. But you have to be vocal. Toughness, discipline's required to play this way, and you got to be tough to take care of the ball. And then I think the last core value for us, focus. And again, the best way of thinking about this is listening to the old clinics of Rick Majerus. Who am I? Who is my teammate? who is guarding me and how are they guarding me, who is guarding my teammate, to have an awareness of what is going to be our advantage in this situation. Okay, and now I'm going to go to some synergy clips. Can you see this? I'm assuming you can see this, Lason?
Yep, sure can, Coach.
Okay, good. All right. So now just some of these things that we've talked about define. So I think here, and again, the point guard is initiated action. So a lot of times we'll come down after a miss and we just want to play right to our motion. Ideally, he would have sprinted out quicker. You see our other forward, and this is our 5-man, getting out to the alley position. And he drags this big with him. And he only made, I think, 2 threes during the year, but he was skilled, he could pass. And I really liked him dragging a person out. So here we had this was our best player, our 3-man who was playing the forward. This was our rookie of the year, Tyler Kolek. Here, the first one is he just refuses the ball screen. This is stuff we work on. You see one of the finishes we talk about, the inside hand finish. But again, we like to just sprint down, play quickly. Here we have a side ball screen. Here, in this case, we had more of a pure center. He was in a lunge spot, potentially getting to a punch or maybe working his way out. A little indecision by the opponent, whether they were switching or not, stopping behind. And so obviously the refusal, the inside hand finish, the quick finish, the body ball finish, the stop behind, shooting the 3, these are all things that need to be drilled on a daily basis. Okay, again, you see here, and I think there's a clip where, oh no, but again, we now have 3 out on the backside. Our center is vacated to the alley, which just, it drags this defender just one step higher. He's got to be aware of our guy right here, Josh Aduro, which just creates just a little more room here for the short roll. Again, VCU, really aggressive, hard hedge team. So this would be a short roll, a pocket pass, and a finish. I think this is a clip where we get to multiple actions. Again, against a really pressure-oriented team. We're playing a freshman who had been injured for a good period of time, was just getting healthy, was a 3-man, but just playing him some minutes here and just getting him out to space. So we have a spread, we have an ice, nothing's there. We have a jersey cut against hard pressure. We have this forward sprinting and ghosting to the perimeter. Create confusion. Now we have 3 perimeter players on the backside, all outside the arc. We've moved the defense. Now we got a low angle ball screen, hit the dive man for a layup. One of the things that by getting our forward away from the basket, not only does it create a little more space against hard hedging teams to hit a dive or a short, but I think it makes it harder to defense a rebound. And so here, pass, we miss, but our forward comes in and gets on the offensive glass. We're going to show a clip or two of playing out of a side ball screen and then creating advantage. So again, here we have a short roll. We've got a good player. We've got teams rotating. This is like a post feed. Now we knew that in this particular game, there's going to be heavy emphasis on the post. So we wanted to spot on the perimeter and dive our other forward, dive the 45. And then we knew there'd be a double. And I think this is kind of the one more action. And so we'll just watch this whole clip. This to me is embodiment of humility. This to me is beautiful basketball. One guy touches it, two guys touch it, 3, 4, 5, 6, drive, kick, feet set 3. 7 guys touch the ball. The ball is shared. Really good basketball. And I loved actually. I'm going to go back to that clip and let it work, because, like, to me, in terms of trying to build a culture, in addition to this kind of unselfish play and ball movement advantage, I'm as happy as the reaction you see here at the end of this clip from our bench. This is what basketball is supposed to be about. And in the midst of a pandemic and masked up and everything like that, there was joy, the guys in the court, and there was joy with the guys who were on the bench. Refusal, dive the 45 for a layup. Again, you can see the spacing on the backside. Our 5 mans outside the arc, point guards come through. We get a hedge. Now, perfect for our forward to dive the 45. So we want to dive the 45 on post-ups and on dribble drive baseline. Catch and finish. Here's a longer clip. So misses screen. Center comes outside the arc. Here's a perimeter forward coming to ghost to screen out of an alley. Create a little indecision. Nothing's there. Now he comes, we refuse. Step up. We dribble fade for 3. So again, that showed a little bit of the different actions or activities kind of all flowing together. Against teams that really hard hedge in VCU, very, very, very good team, very elite defensive team. This is one of our best victories of the year. We love to ice the screen to create a little indecision against a team that's going to, trap or really hard hedge. And you can see this defender is forcing the ball to the screen, but as our guy ices it, we love to drive the ice. Drive the ice, create help, dish for a layup. And then the other thing that we have out of a side ball screen is what we call hands. So here you can see our forward just kind of slapped his hands. So instead of going to the ball screen, gets a handoff, stop behind, they fall behind, catch, and shoot. And then the other thing with hands is to go for no, no. We had brought the ball up. We had called this play that we were going to get our best players. A 1-point game, we're down, minute 40 to go, and kind of a game where we were kind of stuck in the mud offensively, and we wanted to get to this dribble handoff and fake it because we knew that GW intended to switch the four perimeter player screens. So again, it's hands. Either we catch it on a handoff and fake the handoff back and go, oh no, or we fake the dribble handoff. We call it an oh no. He fakes it, and then a body ball finish to get us ahead, and ultimately we end up winning the game. The other thing you can do out of hands is oh no and dribble to a post move. And here again, in the post, you see the dive on the 45, not as good a spacing on the backside as I like, but certainly enough room. And our front court player at a monster game that night goes to work. Here's a couple of examples of spread ball screens. So again, with the spread, we've got the corner occupied. In an ideal world, this player would have been down 2 or 3 more steps. You see our centers start to vacate. Again, in an ideal world, he'd have come with a little bit more pace. We were pretty solidly in the league in this game. And now we ice the spread ball screen against a hard edge and throw behind and score on it. Sometimes against hard hedges, it's really good. In addition, so here's a good example where our player's in the alley. He goes for hands. Nothing's there. He rescreens. He's in a Ricky. We've got 5 guys outside the arc. Again, our spacing here not perfect. Against the hedge, certainly the reads would be to hit the big. This player, what we call the throwback man, or the kick pass in this case. Kick pass and hit the big. The spread throwback. You see here's a dribble handoff. So this would be one of the things that we see if the other big's in the punch and the ball comes over here. This guard could have passed, cut through, and we could have had a low angle ball screen, or he can go dribble handoff, which is what he does. Now we're in a spread. Other forwards in the left, other guards over here. Spread, throw back, drive the closeout. Again, what's really important is he's shot ready. He eyes the rim. He drives it. Penetration. Our big steps up on ball side penetration. Scores on a lunge move. Here's a spread ball screen where the ball handler is a threat. It's coming to a spread. Here's our other forward is out at the 3-point line. Refusal of the ball screen. Lots of space, body ball finish for the bucket. And then here's some examples of spread ball screens leading to advantage. So first is a refusal. Again, you can see I think just having the other forward outside the arc really creates good activity, spread, advantage, drive, body ball finish. Here we attack, in transition, probe, nothing's there, and now we can get right to offense. And I think that's what's really important. Get this other forward out to a spot. He's getting himself out to the alley spot. Here's a spread. We got a switch. recognize the switch, throw the lob. Here's an alley. So one of the things here, we had alley ghost, drive, kind of mishandle it. So we had advantage. Nothing's there. Let's get to the next advantage. Get to a spread, ice it to the basket, create indecision, kick, feed set 3. Okay, the opposite forward here. Now we see some of the things that are the opposite forward. So here, the opposite forward is in the alley. He gets the hands. You can see him clap his hands. Hand off. Now he Ricky's it. Now it's a spread. Now this opposite forward is in the lift spot. Lots of space. He's our best player. Get him in space. Got a really good shooter in the corner. And then again, this is something that we work on in our skill development, the floater game. Attack and transition. Nothing's there. Not a great screen set. We get to the lift. This opposite forward vacating out. Just all we need is to get this X5 to just move a little bit or just pause. And now we got a body ball finish in space. Here's an alley with a pop. Drive, little sloppy. Now we're in our lift. From here, we could go to continue. This guy jersey cut. This guy could lift. We could play another side ball screen. This guy could do zoom action. He could screen down, get to dribble hand up. Or we can just play in space. And we got 5 guys outside the arc. So I really loved what we could do for our best player, who was a wing, but playing the forward spot. Out of alleys, I didn't have film clips with alleys popping. You certainly could pop. We've got some clips here just from the last 5 games of the forward diving out of an alley. And we try to probe. In transition, nothing's there. Here's an alley. Alley on this side, this big, vacating to an alley spot. We got drive, we got dive 45, we got dive, we got dribble fade. This guy right here should be presenting either for a crackback or for a slot pass. The alley was really good for the ball handler to score. One alley, 2 alleys. Guy dies on the screen, stop behind, shoot the 3. Moving the ball. Here's a lift. It's forward and left. Jersey cut. Overplayed. Let's Ricky it. So anything the defense does, we should be able to have a counter. They overplayed, got us out of the operating area. Let's Ricky, alley, good hesitation move by our freshman point guard, floater off the glass. Here we have an alley. We get a switch late in the game. Exploit the switch, step back, and shoot the 3. Probably one of the most effective things we had out of alley was the ghost. So again, you can see here at the beginning, the speed at which our screener is coming, sprinting, ghosting. One of the things we do, if we ghost and pop, we want the next guy to dive, to cut through, to take away what we call the nail help. We want to take this guy away, create indecision. We got 5 out, throw the ball to our best player in space for penetration. Alley, ghost, indecision, lay it up at the rim. Alley, ghost, drive it, and then watch his 45 dive. And then look at the celebration on the bench at a pretty key time of the game. Alley, ghost, advantage, drive, get your pull-up game. Alley, ghost, drive, advantage, dive the 45, lay it in. Another thing out of alley, we can do what we call hands. Just clap for the handoff, first step, stop behind. It's amazing how many guards will be very intense on the ball, just kind of relax when their guy gives it up. We'll go hands, stop behind, catch and shoot. Ghost it, get a switch, get in the post, score. Trying to run something here out of a timeout against pressure. Don't get to it, but now we flow to the next thing. Here's alley. Now they blow it up. They're pressuring, they're blowing up this guy, Javon Green, earlier in the game. He's the one who hit that stop behind 3. So they're like, we're not gonna let him stop behind. He comes. Now we go Ricky. This time he could stop behind, shoot the 3. So all these things, the reads, we have managers, we have walk-ons, we have coaches, play different kind of ball screen defense, handoff defense, so we can get used to these counters. Here's alley, hands, face up, shot. There's hands, yoga, get the mismatch, throw behind. And then this would be alley, hands, oh no, where and we just give goofy terms to everything. So this would be a good example. Here, the opposite forward is in the punch. He's not in the alley, he's not in the lift, not in the euro, he's in the punch. He stays in the punch. Got a mismatch. Okay. Ideally, we'd then lift it to what we call a shirt. We're going to show a couple clips of that here in a second. But now we got alley, hands. Here's the forward vacated. So he's punched, and now he's relocated to space. Okay. And now we fake the handoff, and we go, oh no, to a floater. And then this would be an example of an alley that gets to some advantage. So even here is a team that really sunk to the ball and got to the midline. Really good defensive team for them. But we're out at space. And that's the value where if we had left this forward around the basket, it'd have been much easier this forward being out here, it's much further for them to go in their rotations. We skip to the forward, drive, and now we're in advantage basketball. The other thing that we work on, we call it shirt, and that's when the other forward gets to a high-low. Anytime a guy stays in the punch, he's got to yell Barry. We really want, so here, our forward has got a mismatch. We don't want him to go out to the Euro or to the alley or to the left. Stay there. Barry, Barry, Barry. He's got to yell it. It's really important that we talk. We get to the shirt, high, low, layup. So we'll watch that one again. Reads it. This game, we knew the other team was going to switch with their 4-man. So we would ghost the screen or we'd set it. We get the mismatch. Now here we are at the 45. He's got to yell Barry. He comes to the shirt. Pass fake. This is one of the things that we drill. Look at him. Pass fake. Spaced out. Catch and shoot 3. It's the next possession. Get the switch. Stay here. Boom. Pass fake to the guy who just hit the 3. This guy's like, I'm not getting beat twice. Now we lob. Take advantage of the mismatch. Can be out of an alley, can be out of a side. We got the mismatch we want. Get to the shirt, space on the backside. These are things that we drill on every day. Last thing is just playing out of the post, just a couple examples of getting it inside and being able to make pass plays out of post-ups. So we see a spread. You see this big getting his way out to the alley. We'd like it to have been a little quicker. We got a throwback. We got a post-up. St. Joe's is coming. We call this red hoop. They come from the hoop. They sit on this inside shoulder. We want to dive our other forward. We want spacing on the backside. Him diving in draws his guard in. So in this case, the forward's coming to double. So you get a guard here that's got to be aware of the big. We want him to duck in, so he's got to work harder. So there's more room for the kick to one of our best shooters. Got an ice. Got a post up. They're coming from the baseline. They're scrambling now. These, because of the space, because this forward dove, they got 2 on the ball. This is why we want this forward to be active, punching, being an offensive rebounder. And it means these 2 guys have to cover these 3 outside the arc. You can see they're spaced, they're shot ready. Catch and shoot. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen. That's everything that I have prepared. And then certainly if we have any questions, we can answer those at this point.
Yeah, Coach, we do have some questions. The first one was, with the team concept you're emphasizing, if you have an athlete who is the clear offensive focus, would you have them fit in your motion or 5-out system, or would you alter the system to have the ball in his hands more?
Well, I think that's kind of what we did with our forward. We said we moved from the 3 to the 4 because you can make him the facilitator. You can have him lift and he can go, oh no, he can pick and pop. He can pick and roll if he's got an advantage. He can be in that alley. He can go screens. That's really hard. He sprints out from the alley that goes to the top of the key, catch, and he can drive. He can play out of hands. He can hand it off. But I think what's important, just again for me, is that he's part of the team. And I think if you run isolations all the time without the ball moving, without other guys involved, one, I think you're harder to defend later in the year. And two, I think you lose buy-in for the rest of the team. So I would try to find ways to let him know how important he is in facilitating our offense and attacking it. But again, sometimes you have guys who are great players that are too unselfish in this role. And like this guy, Jordan Miller, I had to tell him, you're being selfish if you're not looking to attack and score at every juncture.
Next question was, as the wrong foot finish is seemingly hard for players to grasp just due to habits, how do you drill the fundamental to make it become more habit?
Yeah, and again, it depends on where you're at and what level. That's a higher level thing that we would not work on. That would be something that we'd work on with our experienced guards, juniors and seniors. That's not the first finish, but a lot of times one of our assistants, you would just dribble, at the elbow, and then you'd work on the wrong foot, the wrong hand. We would just like you do form shooting, before you get out to the free throw line, before you shoot threes, just working on inside hand finish or wrong foot finish, and it's awkward. And my thing with our finish moves with our players, it's just like for front court guys, for post up guys. You can show them 4 or 5 different post moves, and then really all you need as a post player is 2 post moves, a post move and a count. What's best for Johnny may not be the right one thing for Joe, and Timmy has got to do something different. Well, it's the same for your guards. So some of our guards are better at the floaters. Other guys, they work on the floater. I'm like, you're not shooting the floater in the game because you can't make it in practice, but you're pretty good with your pivot finish or your inside hand and your body ball. So part of it is, all guards are not created equal. And it's just kind of, you work on different finish moves, and then, hey, these are the 2 or 3 that you have in your bag of tricks for when we're going live, and then we can work on the next things.
Next question was, what differences have you noticed coaching continuity and motion offenses at Williams and Bucknell, George Mason?
Well, again, so part of my thing is what we're trying to do with this is have it be a motion, have it be a read and react that allows you to keep playing, to get to the next action. But I think if it's a continuity where the danger is it becomes a pattern. Like the value of a continuity offense is it's very clear what you're doing. The danger of a continuity offense is it becomes so much of a pattern that it becomes robotic. So I think the balance in coaching any kind of offense is the ability to have creativity and discipline in equal doses. And if you're too creative with no structure, you've got chaos. And if you're too disciplined without any creativity, you lose functionality. So I think that's always a challenge. I think the biggest difference now is just the trend, for good reason, to have more 5-out spacing, at least within a possession. And so what I liked with what we morphed to this year was we had an inside presence. We set a spread ball screen, dove into the post, looked at the post. If it went to the other side, now that player vacated. So that we had somebody around the basket, and then they were getting out. If it's all 5-out, to me, you run the risk of being just a jump shooting team. And you still have to drive the ball, post the ball, offensive rebound the ball, and you have to get to the foul line, no matter what.
So, Coach, we've had a couple of coaches ask if it was possible to get the I guess the document that you showed earlier, that that you listed all your concepts and things on. What would be the best way for coaches to reach out to you or to contact you if they have questions?
So this is the problem now, because I don't have a staff. See, like you got all my quick draw diagrams when I was at Bucknell. Hopefully I will soon. I would say just email me. It's Dave, D-A-V-E, Paulsen, Paulsen, the number 87 at gmail.com. And if I don't get right back to you, please just be patient and send another one. But I can forward that, unless it's easier for me to send those documents to you guys, and you can just.
Well, I can do that as well, Coach. If you just want to send me a copy, and I can then distribute to everybody as well.
That's probably going to be a more foolproof way of getting the documents in people's hands. But certainly anyone can feel free to email me at that address. Anything that I do, have done, or will do has been stolen from somebody. So I'm a big believer in sharing, and happy to do so.
Coach, what I can also do, you mentioned earlier, we were talking about beforehand that I had a lot of your stuff from Bucknell. I can also probably print those out on Fast Model, a document, PDF document, include that, for those coaches as well, with, from what you did at Bucknell.
Okay, great.
The one question I had was, would you go into a game and kind of script maybe your initial actions, or kind of script your maybe your plays, just to kind of see if the team's going to play a certain pick and roll defense, or how they're going to guard certain situations?
Yeah, I mean, we had a pretty good idea, again, and everything's different based on wherever you're coaching. So, we have the luxury of so much film. We had a pretty darn good idea how teams are going to guard us. So for us, more it'd be side ball screen, because I like being able to get to different types of actions within a possession. In some of those film clips, you could see that it was a side ball screen, and then on the other side, it was an alley, and maybe the guy ghosted it, or maybe he got the hands, or something like that. And then that didn't work, and we got to a spread on the other side. So for us, it was more about, okay, they're going to hard hedge the side ball screens. What are our reads? We drill it 3-on-0, 3-on-3. Spread ball screens, they're going to do this. Hands, alley, ghost. And so we would do it more like that. But then for me, yes, I would have I think I want to play out of alley and hands more, or maybe, we didn't talk about any of our entries, certain entries which would flow more into certain activities. So I would try, I'd have a play card that I would make, basically like an index card, but I would, with everything that we do, but for this particular game, the emphasis would be a little bit more heavy on these 3 actions, or those 4 actions.
Excellent. For all the participants, I just put my email in the chat. So if you'll contact me, I will, I'll distribute out the handouts from the presentation today, and make sure that you get a copy of that. But Coach, thank you so much for being a part of this session today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join us. And any kind of final thoughts or anything you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that for me, coaching this year was as rewarding as any year I've ever coached. For the longest time, I was stuck in my house and didn't have a team to coach. I said, well, I'm never going to complain about anything involved with coaching after it was taken away from me. And then coaching this year was such a joy and such a blessing. It was the only sense of quote unquote normalcy in this pandemic. And yeah, we're masked up and had to constantly reaffirm to our guys to mask up and and keep their distance. But it was fun. It was a joy to be in a gym with guys, to watch them get better, to watch them improve. And this is the first off season in 30 plus years where I don't have a team to get ready for right now. Hopefully that'll change, soon. So I guess to me, that I would say to anyone, wherever you're coaching, whatever, the level doesn't matter. It's just an unbelievable opportunity to do what we love, but also impact the lives of young people. And I know this, they need it now more than ever. And so I think it's still an unbelievably noble profession. And whatever you're coaching, however you're doing it, you're having a chance to make an impact on young people's lives.
Coach, thank you again. This is, I think that I speak for myself and all of the participants that this has been a very informal and helpful session for us. So I'm going to go ahead and end this session. We have Coach Kyle Keller from Stephen F. Austin coming up at 1 o'clock on half-court defense. So hope you'll come back and join us for that. But if not, I'm sure we'll connect with each and every one of you again here pretty shortly. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.